Some people say the keto diet is way too expensive. Some people say there's no way you can eat like that and have money left over for anything else. Some people say, wow, that recipe is expensive, as they stop by McDonald's to get their $15 value meal and are hungry again 2 hours later. So I wanted to do a keto extreme budget challenge. But don't worry, I'm not doing the thing I did on the other video and only eating Dollar Tree food for 84 hours. I'm making some great keto meals with real ingredients that you can find at any grocery store. And I'm gonna do it where even the harshest critic can't deny that you can do keto on the cheap. So I thought to myself, what should my budget for an entire week's worth of meals be? $200? $150? $100? How about 70 bucks or $10 a day to eat keto? And on top of that, keto for 2 people. Can I do it? Some people will say no. Some people, this video's for you. Stick around. So the first thing I had to do for this video was come up with a plan for the week. So I wrote everything down that I wanted to include that I thought would get me under budget. Then I came up with a meal plan that goes with that. And I wanted to make sure and make it super easy as well. So I wanted to make sure the meals at night were big enough to have leftovers for lunch either the next day, the day after, or the day after. You know, if you're one of those people that can't eat the same thing 2 meals in a row, they'll be fine to save for a day or two if you want. The next thing I had to do is go grocery shopping. So y'all come along with me, let's go grocery shopping, and I'll show you the exact totals of all the money I spent for the week when we get back. Come on. So first of all, let's go through our meats and dairy for the week. I got 2.38 pounds of this 80/20 ground beef for $9.02. I got a little over 2 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken thighs for $7.64, but they were also 30% off of that. I got a dozen eggs. I just got the cheap kind, not that they're cheap anymore, at $4.53. But what is cheap is my favorite bacon in the world. This premium sliced bacon at Aldi is only $3.99. I got these boneless loin pork chops. They're thin sliced, center cut. They're $4.59 a pound. I got almost 2 pounds for $8.86. Then I got some of this pork sausage, and hey, it's not the cleanest thing in the world, but if you need it to be cheap, it can't always be the best. But it's fine at 0 carbs, so I ain't real worried about that little bit of dextrose in there. And I already had this at home, so I didn't buy it. I actually got this from Walmart, but the heavy cream, if I need to buy a whole quart of it at Aldi, it's $4.43. You really only need about a pint for this week, but hey, I got it anyway. I'll add that to the receipt. Now for the cheese lineup, because you know we're not going to do anything without some cheese. This block of Parmesan cheese, you'll only need half of it, but it was $4.39, so we'll just throw that in the total. You're going to need some of this low moisture part skim mozzarella. This is an 8-ounce block, and it's $1.89. And then 8 ounces of cream cheese is $1.75. And here's the rest of the stuff from Aldi. This premium marinara sauce, and you can save this money if you make my marinara sauce and freeze it ahead of time. But this is just like the Rayo's, but a lot cheaper. 8 grams of carbs, 2 grams of fiber, no added sugar for a net 6 grams. So it's off by a gram, but hey, if a gram's gonna hold you up, then you may need to do something different anyway. This is $3.89 versus about 7 to 8 for the Rayo's. Then I got this little pack of spinach here. This is 8 ounces of spinach for $1.55. A whole pack of these green onions, 5.5 ounces, and just because I want to be a little fancy, I got these. They're 95 cents. And the last thing I was able to snag at Aldi was this can of diced tomatoes. It's 14.5 ounces, and it's 88 cents. I got these 3 large zucchini for $2.71. Then I got a nice sized cabbage for $2.43. So my total from Aldi here, if you want to pause this and look at the individual prices, you can. But it totals up at $55.37. I added $4.43 for that heavy cream for a total of $59.80 at Aldi. I ended up having to go to 2 more stores to get what I needed. Aldi was out of cauliflower florets. I wanted the frozen ones. You could buy the fresh ones, but they're $4 a piece, where you can get a whole pound of this for $2.50. So it would have been almost $9 for the fresh cauliflower versus the frozen. I always prefer frozen vegetables because they're picked at the peak of ripeness, where the fresh stuff a lot of times is picked way ahead of time because it needs to ripen while it's traveling sometimes halfway around the world. So the frozen usually has more vitamin and mineral content than the fresh does. So I got both of these packs for $5. And I'm gonna leave them in the fridge, not in the freezer, because that way they'll thaw and I can easily get all the water out of them. I had gone to Food Lion to get all these things, but there I ended up with a Vidalia onion and a bell pepper. The pepper was 79 cents, the onion was 71 cents, for a grand total of $1.50. So the total for 7 days of lunch and dinner for 2 adults is $66.30. And I'm assuming in this video that you have some spices and seasonings on hand. Maybe not this many, but you should have some. If not, you don't have to use any seasoning, but I definitely recommend it. I'm also figuring you're gonna have some sort of healthy oil on hand, either avocado oil, extra virgin olive oil, bacon grease, beef tallow, butter, something you can use to cook with. Now, I don't eat breakfast in the morning, which is not only great for you to do intermittent fasting, but also if you want to save some money on keto, that's one of the best ways to do it. That is super easy. So for the first night of meals, I decided to do a breakfast for dinner and make a crustless quiche. Check this out. So we diced half of this onion up and then half a block of the mozzarella cheese that's going to go in the quiche. So then we'll saute this onion until it's nice and cooked, and then we'll go in with half of that pack of the spinach. So after that onion's cooked down pretty good, we'll go in with half of that package of spinach and save the rest for a different recipe. After this is cooked down, just take it off the heat. We're going to add it into a quiche in just a minute. So I've got 8 eggs in a mixing bowl. I'm going to start whisking them in with a half cup of heavy cream and then half that block of mozzarella cheese. I'm going to add a little bit of seasoning to it. If you don't have any seasoning, you don't have to use it. You could just use salt and pepper if you want to instead of the seasoning. Now just mix that up real good. Then I'm going to take my glass pie plate. I'm just going to spray it with a little bit of avocado oil and just make sure you brush it on there. And you can use the aerosols if you want to. I just don't like to use them because it just gets all over the kitchen. Plus there's a lot of junk in there I just don't want to eat. So just paint the inside of it, make sure it gets all over. Then I'm just going to dump in the spinach and the onion. Give that a good mix. I've already got the oven preheated to 375 degrees. We're going to put it in for about 30 minutes and give it a check. You want to cook it until the top is nice and golden, with a nice little sheen on top. That's what it should start looking like right here. So after 30 minutes, this is what it looks like. Now it's probably going to deflate a little bit. It's already deflating a little now. But we'll just let it sit and cool for about 10 minutes before we cut it. And I don't know about you, but the first piece never comes out real good. So this is piece number 2. And you can always serve this with just a little sprig of rosemary if you got some out in the garden or whatever. And that's going to do it for night 1. So there's enough left over so that you can have lunch for the next day or even save it for the day after. This is definitely filling. If you want a little more protein, spend about $5 more, get you a pound of bacon or a pound of ground beef or whatever you want, but this is definitely filling. For the second night, I wanted to do something Italian. So I'll use the rest of that leftover spinach and make an easy sausage Alfredo with zoodles. Here's what you do. This dish starts with 1 pound of the sausage. I'm just gonna brown that in a large skillet over medium heat. Once it started browning up proper, I'm going to season it with about a teaspoon of garlic powder. Then I'm going to put on my pink nails and grate about half a block of that Parmesan cheese. Just kidding, that's my wife. Don't get all upset about that. Then we'll use 1.5 of the zucchinis to make zucchini noodles. Now you can use the Vasta like I do. I'll link that down in the description for you. Or you can just cut it up into noodles. Once that sausage is browned up pretty good, just dump in the other half bag of spinach and start cooking it down. It's going to wilt down real small like this, and at this point I'm just going to go in with a little bit of Italian seasoning and get that thing tasting good. Then I'm going to toss half a block of cream cheese right in there and let that start cooking down to make a creamy sauce. Once that's all incorporated, I'm going in with 1 cup of heavy cream and half of the Parmesan cheese. Now's the time to taste it and adjust your seasonings. Give it a little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt, and then it's time to go in with another half cup of the heavy cream. Give that a good mix and then add those zucchini noodles, or zoodles if you will, right into the pan and then give them a good mix. Just let it cook for 5 to 10 minutes until it gets nice and bubbly just like this, and then we're ready to serve this up. This is going to be a favorite. So I'll just finish this in a bowl, sprinkle a little bit of that Parmesan cheese right on top, or a lot bit of that Parmesan cheese right on top, whatever you like. And if you like a little bit of heat on there, add a little bit of crushed red pepper flakes and you've got a beautiful and delicious dish. The third day, this is one of my favorites right here. These are bacon cheeseburger bowls. Now, I ended up spending an extra $1.85 to get shredded lettuce just because I thought it would be good on there. But you don't have to have that at all. You can just make the bowl and it'll be absolutely delicious. If you get the lettuce, still under 10 bucks a day. Check it out. The first thing I'm gonna do is dice up half of that onion and saute it in some olive oil over a medium heat. Then once they're cooked down a good bit, I'm going to throw in half of that hamburger meat that we have and start cooking it down until it's nice and brown. Once it is, I'll go in with 1 to 2 teaspoons of onion powder, just depending on how oniony I want it that night. Then I'll add in about the same amount of garlic salt. If you don't have garlic salt, just use garlic powder and a little bit of salt, because that's what it is. Then just add in a little bit of salt and a little bit of fresh cracked pepper, and that's our first layer of flavor right there. If you're enjoying this video about how to save money on keto, please hit the like button down there and let me know. And while you're at it, click the subscribe and the bell icon next to it so you won't miss any more of my keto on a budget videos. Real simple to finish this. Just put some shredded lettuce in a bowl. If you decide not to use the shredded lettuce, just put the meat in a bowl. Top it with some shredded cheddar cheese if you got any left over, or use some of that mozzarella that we have. And at least for us, we like a big plop of sour cream on top. And I know sour cream wasn't on the list, but that's one of those staple things you should just always have in your fridge if you're on keto. If y'all want to see a video about that, make sure you let me know down in the comments too. And I'll show you what a properly stocked keto fridge should look like. Then we'll throw some tomatoes on there, of course some bacon, and then last but not least, some dill pickle chips if you got any of those in the fridge, and you probably do. And that's how we make the quick and easy bacon cheeseburger bowl. Day 4 is delicious, and you can start it early in the morning. It uses the crock pot, or you could use the slow cooker function on your Instant Pot. But this is a delicious pork and cabbage. I decided to use the Instant Pot for this so it's a true one-pot meal. If you don't have an Instant Pot and you're going to use the slow cooker, just do all these saute steps in a pan before you start. I'm just going to add a little bit of bacon grease in there. And this is unfiltered bacon grease, so it's got a few of those nice little chunks in there. Once that bacon grease is nice and hot, we're just going to use the saute on the Instant Pot and just brown the pork chops a little bit on each side. Maybe leave them in for a couple minutes per side. You don't want to cook them all the way, just get a nice little browning on them. And then I'll use half this cabbage today. I'm going to take the core out and I'm going to slice it into nice thin slices to go in the Instant Pot. Once those pork chops have got a little bit of a sear on them, take them out so that you can sear the rest. Once they're all seared, just hit the cancel button on the Instant Pot. That'll stop that saute function, and then we'll just dump all of the pork chops in there together with the juice. And then throw all that cabbage in there right on top of it. Now, of course, again, this is optional, but I'm going to use some Old Bay seasoning in there and season this up real good. Old Bay is generally for seafood, but it gives a great taste to pork also, and the cabbage. Then just dump in that whole can of diced tomatoes, juice and all. And a cup of bone broth or water. And of course, this is optional, but nothing goes with cabbage better than some apple cider vinegar. I'm going to go in with probably 2 teaspoons, maybe a tablespoon right on top. Then lid up your Instant Pot and we're going to go on the slow cook setting. We'll slow cook it for 6 hours and it'll be ready to go. After 6 hours, this is what it looks like. You just give it a nice stir and it's ready to eat. I'm telling you, this pork is just going to fall right apart on you. So no need for a knife here. Just serve it right on a plate. You can use a bowl if you want to, but make sure you get some of that juice because it's absolutely delicious. For day 5, I did this stir fry. If for some reason you don't like the Chinese flavor of food, which I don't know why you wouldn't, but if not, you could always use Indian flavorings. You could use good old standard American flavorings in there. A little bit of Worcestershire sauce or even barbecue sauce would work good in here. But this is a fantastic ground beef and cabbage stir fry. You're always off to a good start when you start with a big pan over a medium heat and you throw in some good old bacon grease. You know something's going to end up all right. Once that's nice and hot, add in the other half of the onion you had left over, diced into a small dice or a little bit bigger pieces if you want. I like to add a little bit of this Chinese 5 spice in just for a little bit of sweetness. It's got cinnamon, star anise, ginger, clove. It's just good stuff. Of course, it's optional if you're staying on budget or if you don't have it in your pantry. Once those are cooked down a little bit and started to caramelize, we'll throw in the rest of our ground beef. Brown it up until it's nice and cooked. And then add in the other half of cabbage that you sliced up into small pieces just like that. Once that cabbage has started to wilt down pretty good, I'm just going to throw some coconut aminos over the top. You can use soy sauce if you use soy sauce. If you don't want to use anything at all, you don't have to, but this is going to give it that Chinese flavor. So I'll just give it a good sprinkle and stir it up, give it a taste. Once you got this tasting just the way you want it, you can just serve it up. I like to do it in a bowl just because it's easier to get to, but you can plate it up or whatever you want to do. I believe you're going to absolutely love this dish, especially if you've been missing Chinese food. For day 6, this is the night you invite your non-keto friends over because they'll absolutely love this. For this one, I've done some kicked up bacon wrapped chicken thighs with roasted cauliflower. Now, if you want to get fancy and your budget's a little bigger, the cauliflower would be better with fresh cauliflower, but at $5 for a head of cauliflower versus about $1.70 for a bag of frozen, if you're on a budget, do the frozen. It's still going to be delicious. The texture may not be quite as good, but hey, if you're on a budget, you do what you got to do, right? Either way, it's delicious. Watch this. The first thing I want to do with this cauliflower is put it in a strainer to make sure and get all the water out. Then after it's drained and as dry as you can possibly get it, and you may want to use some paper towels to dry it off, just put it on a large baking sheet lined with some parchment paper. Drizzle it with some olive oil, or you can throw all that in the bowl ahead of time and then put it on there, but I like to be a little messy, so I'm gonna do it this way. And I'm just gonna season it up with a little bit of seasoning salt, just for some nice flavor on there. Then on another parchment paper lined baking pan, I'm going to take half that pack of chicken thighs and put them right on it. And then for these chicken thighs, just a real simple seasoning. I'm going to use some salt, I'm going to use some pepper, and I'm going to use a little bit of smoked paprika. And make sure you season both sides unless you just want the seasoning to hit the roof of your mouth. Plus, who wants somebody saying, oh, well, the top half of that chicken was really tasty? Anyway, now's the fun part. We get to wrap each one of these chicken thighs with a piece of bacon. A bigger thigh may require 2 pieces of bacon. I won't tell anybody if you won't. Put that cauliflower in a 375-degree oven for about 15 minutes. Then add in that pan of chicken, and it's going to cook for about 30 minutes after that. And everything will be ready to serve. This right here is going to be a hit. Now, if you do invite people over for that one, just know you may not have lunch, so you might have to intermittent fast just a little bit longer. But for the 7th day, it was a little cold outside, so I wanted to do a nice, creamy chicken stew with some delicious flavors, and not only warming, but filling too. I think you'll really love this one. Like so many other great recipes, this one starts out with a big old pan over medium heat and a little bit of olive oil. To that, I'm going to add my diced bell pepper and that whole pack of the green part of the green onions. Just leaving a couple for garnish, of course. Once those are cooked down proper, I'm just going to add in the rest of that pack of chicken thighs that I have diced up into small little cubes. Just kind of move that chicken around, press it down to the bottom, and let it sit for a little bit. Before it sits too long, I'm going to go ahead and season it up with a little bit of all-purpose seasoning. Or just use salt and pepper if you don't have seasonings around the house. After 3 or 4 minutes, you can go ahead and flip that chicken over. Try to get a little bit brown on one side, but if you can't, then it ain't gonna hurt anything. And you're gonna cook it until it's almost cooked through. Once it's pretty much cooked through, we're gonna use the other half of that block of cream cheese right in the middle and let it melt down. Once that's broken down just a little bit, I'll add in about a 1/4 cup of heavy cream because we're going to start to make a cream sauce out of this. Once it starts looking like this, I'm going to add in half of that jar of marinara sauce. You're going to have half left over, so I'm sure you'll be able to find something good to do with that. Then give this stuff a good stir, combine it to make a nice creamy tomatoey sauce, and then what's left in the fridge? There's something left over. Oh, 1½ zucchinis. Cut those into cubes and we'll throw them right in the mix. Give it all a good stir together, and then we've got half a block of mozzarella cheese left over. So I'm going to grate that up, put that right over the top, and this is going to go in a 375-degree oven for 20 minutes. Now ain't nothing to it but to do it. I'm going to serve this right in a bowl. Make sure you get a lot of that grape juice in there because this makes a wonderful stew. And get fancy with it if you want to. You can take some of those green onions if you got a few left over and just dress up the top a little bit. Make it look, visually appealing. Hit it over the head with a little bit of smoked paprika for a nice smoky flavor, and you've got yourself a great stew. So I hope that shows some people that keto does not have to be expensive. And if you want to see more videos about how I do keto on a budget, make sure you check out this playlist right here.